9.
You're listening to the Radio Wammo Breakfast, only on
Every
Kiwi.
Sunday at 6 p.m.
Alright, he's back with us on this Monday, a little bit earlier than usual. It's Ben Young, bwaggy.com, twitter.com/bwaggy is where you can also hit him up as well. Ben Young, good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely to have you in. Now, today we're talking about two different ways of basically, I guess, crowdsourcing. Would that be the term, crowdsourcing? Ways of getting your project off the ground?
Yeah, essentially, it is crowdsourcing. Instead of gathering funds for a project from one specific person, spreading it out over a few hundred or maybe even a few thousand.
Right, okay. Now, first of all, the first one we'll look at is something called Sellaband.
Yeah, so Sellaband.com, it kind of sounds like a fish, but it's not. It's for bands to raise money to do a record. So essentially, you list your band, you tell your fan base about it, say, hey, look, we really want to make a record.
Yep.
We need to get some studio time, some marketing costs and production. We need to raise X amount of dollars and would like you to partake. They've been doing this for quite a while, and the interesting thing that happened last week was Public Enemy. They put up a profile last week, I think on Wednesday, saying that they would like to raise $250,000 for their next record. So
this is interesting. I mean, this is taking it to the mainstream. Previous to Public Enemy being on, it was sort of more independent, sort of unknown bands.
Mainly, indie bands, independents. With Public Enemy, as you say, it's mainstream. You actually get access to a large audience, and they already have a much larger fan base.
Yeah.
Whereas the typical band is trying to build their fan base at the same time.
Right.
So what you do is you can invest, say, $25. And what happens is that gets set aside.
Yeah.
The band then uses that money to make the record, and the band can dictate what you get in return. So for $25, this is US, by the way, you get a copy of the album once it's released, a digital download, and if you invest slightly more, you get extra benefits. Like, I think if you invest $500, you get a backstage pass to every one of their concerts over the next 3 years.
Right.
There's a $100 option where you get a signed T-shirt. If you invest $10,000, you actually get an executive producer mention. But each and every part gets a share of the profits. So even if you invest $25, you're getting an album, a direct download, and you're getting 33% of all the profits from the record.
So it's basically like you're a shareholder.
Yeah, it's just like the stock market, but for individual bands.
Which is such a great idea. Are you obviously it's a risk though, isn't it? If you invest, you might not get a return at all.
That is a risk, but it's almost a bit of a win-win, because if you can collect all your fans together and say, hey, give us $25, when the record comes out, because they're so invested in it, they actually become mavens for your album and will help you spread it.
Right. So not only are they investing, but they also become the publicity machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they have a vested interest in it.
Yeah.
As well as the fact that, they like your band enough to invest before you even have an album out.
Yeah. So who sets the level at what? It's sort of, who sets the cap for the amount that a band is actually looking for?
I believe the band does.
Okay.
So they'll say, we want X amount and this is what we want to do with it, whether it's a single or maybe they've already got the recordings and they just want production.
Yeah. Okay. I know that New Zealand bands have been involved with this before, and there have been a couple of successes in that they've reached a certain amount of funding and that they've gone and made the album. And I know that Fleur Jack here on Kiwi is attempting to do the same thing as well. You can find her on Sellaband also. I think she's got a link on her page on the Kiwi FM website as well to her Sellaband profile.
Excellent.
Which is a very cool idea. So that's for bands. What about for businesses?
So this is a kind of new model with the crowdsourcing and collecting a lot of money from individual people. And a website that's been doing this for much longer is Kiva. That's Kiva.org. Now what Kiva do is they provide funds to microfinance institutions in developing countries.
Right.
And so when you provide a loan, it's in $25 increments. You're actually giving it to the microfinance institution who gives it out to a local entrepreneur who wants to build a business. And the neat thing about this is, in the past, you'd give your money and there'd be a whole lot of administration costs and you wouldn't actually see a return at all. With Kiva, you get 100% of the money back. So you invest $25, and because it's a registered charity and they're almost an intermediary providing the funds, you get all the money back, and then you can invest in other entrepreneurs. Now, you don't get a direct financial return with Kiva. What you get is exposure to what's going on. So every now and again, you'll get a little update of what your entrepreneur has been doing. And for one, I really, really, really love Kiva, and I set aside a portion of my company's income to go into it.
Okay.
Now, one of my first loans that I did, I've been using Kiva for a few years now, was to a group of entrepreneurs in a little town in eastern Peru, and it was just outside of Puno, and I've actually been through this little town,
right?
So it was kind of cool to actually give money to that local town.
What were they doing?
Well, it was a group of entrepreneurs, so they decided, we know the community quite well, we'll raise, I think it was about $1,700 US, and then we'll distribute it in another layer of loans. And one of the loans that they gave was to a local mother who wanted to start a bakery. And after 4 months from her loan, I believe she got $250 of the total amount. She was making $8 US profit a day and looking at setting up another bakery. Now, the locals there live on under US 50 cents a day in that particular village. So for a lady with a family to actually grow a business, so it gets $8 US profit a day, is a huge return for the local community, because those funds get invested over and over and over.
Right.
And I actually did some research on Peru and the multiplier effect. So if you invest $25 in the economy, it will actually flow through the economy on average about 5 times a year.
So you've done your homework on it as well.
So you're not just giving $25, you're actually adding $125 to their GDP for that year, and you get your money back, and you get those little cool stories.
And it makes you feel good, Ben.
Yeah, definitely.
So is this the remedy to the problems with venture capital at the moment since the big bust?
Well, it hasn't been applied so much to businesses in first world countries.
Okay.
And there isn't really a problem in getting the funds out there.
But since the big bust, there's probably been less money going around because of that to the third world. So this is... What this does is it helps establish funds from everyone instead of a few big pools of investors. Yeah.
And I believe that Kiva's given or redistributed about $65 million US. And they've been around for about 4 years. And the amount that they give out each month is only increasing.
So when do you see a return? When's that going to happen?
I'm not really too worried. I just like getting a little random post, or I've actually had a YouTube video with someone saying, look, here's our little shop, we added in some fridges, and we were able to sell Coke and other beverages.
Well, are there any sort of stopgaps in there, any safety nets at all for the investors? Well,
it's just like a traditional loan. The success rate is about 98.1%. It varies month to month, but the default rate is very, very low. And that's because with microfinance, it's based on trust. It's almost like peer-to-peer lending. And because the provider is local and the person who takes the loan is local, they're less likely to default.
Okay. Kiva. Yeah. Kiva.org and Sellaband.com, 2 places where you can go and invest in various projects. No doubt there are other sites out there for more traditional sort of businesses as well, and we could go through some of those in the future.
Yep. Yeah, there's plenty. There are other band sites that have similar models where you, I forget the name, but you pay $10 up front, and once the album is out, you can then get it for $3. Or there are other microfinance sites where you can get a return.
What I like about these 2 sites that you've mentioned is that there's no boundaries. There's no political boundaries. There's no cultural boundaries. It's just it truly is a global thing.
Yeah. Well, what people want, they can get essentially. And as you say, it is a global thing. If you look at some of the loans, it's coming from people all around the world.
And the great thing is, if you're a New Zealand band and then someone in Finland likes the sound of you,
exactly. You can actually sell them something.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. All right, well, if you want to find out more about Ben and his ideas, you can go to bwaggy.com, BWAGY. Of course, there's his book there as well, which is available. The best ideas are free. Hit him up on Twitter as well, twitter.com/bwaggy. See you next time.
Cheers.
Here's Minwee, track here called Aotearoa.